If you're using Game Maker Studio on Steam, you're going to want to find it in your library and then software. Select Game Maker Studio and launch it. That will bring up the play or make menu. Now, I'm not sure about the standalone version, so the version that doesn't run on Steam. I'm not sure whether this will come up, but either way, we're going to want to click on Make. It shouldn't take too long to get started, and from here, you will have the welcome menu. Any projects you've been working on down the bottom will show up here. So there's your recent ones. And we're going to go to New along the top and give it a project name. Now, the first project that we're going to create is just going to be a very simple top-down shooter. So I'm going to call it TDS Demo and click Create. So this is the Game Maker Studio work environment, and it's very similar to the Game Maker 8 version that you've probably used before. We've got down the left-hand side sprites, sounds, backgrounds, paths, scripts, and a few new things which we probably won't end up using: shaders, timelines, included files, extensions, and macros. We will use scripts quite a bit. So at year 11, you're going to be working with scripts a lot and not so much drag and drop. There will still be some small elements of the drag and drop part, just where it's quicker to do it in drag and drop than it is to script, but generally it's going to be quicker to actually script the code out rather than drag and drop. So for this, we're just going to start by creating some very simple sprites. Now, we can change these sprites later, and this is just for a demo. So essentially, all I'm going to do is call this sprite player character. And I'm going to use the Python way to do it, which is all lowercase with an underscore between letters. Okay, so all lowercase and underscore between words, sorry, so player character. I'm going to edit the sprite and create a new sprite. And for this, we'll make it 16 by 16. 32 by 32, I think, is just too big. 16 by 16. We're going to edit this image and double click it, and then I'm just going to fill it with a color. So I'll make it like a red, and I'll zoom in on it, and I'll use the pen tool or line tool here. Pen tool's fine. I'm going to hold shift, and I'm just going to draw a big P on this. And then fill the rest with black. Okay, so that's going to be my player character, and I'll just use that to mark it. I'll leave all the rest of this stuff simple, and we'll just click OK. So now I'm also going to create another sprite, and this is going to be enemy character, edit sprite, new sprite, 16 by 16. Should always use multiples of 2 when you're typing these in, so it's not a good idea to do something like 12, well, that's a multiple of 2, 12 by 17. There's no need for that, so 16 by 16 is a good size. Double click it, I'll zoom in and fill it with green, and I'll just in black write a big E on it. Maybe I can just type an E. That looks horrible. I won't do that. I'll just draw it. You can use shift to draw straight lines. And then fill that. Doesn't even need to be that neat. There's my enemy character. And I will also create one more sprite that's going to be called enemy spawner. And I'll edit this sprite, create a new sprite. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm actually going to make this 64 wide by 16 high. And I'll make this black background blue. I'll zoom in on it. And I'm just going to draw a very simple shape here. A line going up, a line going across, and then a line going down on the other side. And I'm going to try and make those lines as accurate as possible. So you see it goes 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 pixels. That'll do for that. I might just add another one there. Goes down the bottom. Bring that across, bring it up. Bring it all the way to there. And then bring it down to there. Bring that across. Okay, so there's my base. I'll fill it with some grey. And I'll put another line down the middle here, black. Now don't spend more than 30 seconds on this. Okay, I've spent too much time already because this is not the point of it. The point of it is to be able to actually do the programming, and we need some graphics for that. So there's my 3 sprites. Next step is I'm going to create an object for each of these sprites. Okay, so this is going to be the player character object, and yes, I can call it the same thing. I actually have made a mistake, so we're going to do something retroactively. We're going to call this OBJ player character, and it's going to use the player character sprite. I'm going to go back up to each of these and add SPR to the front of them, because even though I can call them the same things, it's not a good idea to. So I just go back up there and rename those. And get into good habits, because as part of your assessment, we'll be looking at these, whether you've named variables properly, whether you've named items in there, objects properly, etc. Or if you've just called it object 1, object 2, object 3, in which case you'll get not achieved. So you do need to make sure that you're calling these things proper. So second object is going to be object enemy character, and sprite will be sprite enemy character, and then lastly object spawner, or object enemy spawner, and the enemy spawner sprite. I'm going to make that solid, and I'll make all of these solid actually. Okay, so I've got these 3 things here, 3 objects. I'm going to make a room, create a simple room. 1024 by 768, an okay size. I'm just going to make it a bit smaller for testing. So I'm going to make it 640 by 480. This will be enough for me to test it. It's also going to fit in here quite comfortably. Okay, I want it to be able to fit in there so that I can see it. I don't want it to take up the full screen. That's kind of annoying. So I'm going to keep it in there. And 640 by 480. So that's on the settings tab, and I'm going to call it test room. Okay, so I know which one my test room is. Everything that I'm testing, I'm going to throw into this room here so that I can check things out without designing whole levels or anything. Okay, so I can then go to objects. I'm going to put the player character somewhere in the middle. I'm going to put in an enemy spawner here, and I'm going to rotate this one. Whoa, that didn't work out the way I expected it to work. I'll just delete that. Delete. Put that there. Is there a way to rotate it? I don't know. But I'm going to have 4 enemy spawners around the room. Rotation. Here we go. 90. And how do I move it? Left mouse button, move or add. Okay, so I'm going to pop that one over there. This one here, I'm going to rotate -90 and pop it over there. They're not really matched up. That one's going to go at the top. This one's going to be rotated 180 and go down the bottom. Alright, So these are going to spawn enemies which are going to go into the room. I will go to backgrounds and change my background color to this color here, which should make it the same as that. And I can turn the grid off just to check. Okay, so here's my very, very simple room. Now we do need a few other things. I can just click yes to, I'll just double check that they were outside of the room, so I shouldn't have clicked that. I'll put them back in. And that one's going to go -90. And then one more at 180. And I'll click tick. And no, I do not want to remove those. I want to keep them in there. So they're now in there. Okay, I do need to have one more sprite. So I'm going to go back up the top here, SPR. And yes, I know it's a bit vague as to what we're making at the moment. Top-down shooter is generally, you can move around with the arrow keys. The mouse button will aim, and you can shoot in the direction by clicking, and there'll be enemies coming out of these spawn points. Now this is going to be very simple, and I'd hope that if you chose to do a top-down shooter that you'd take it a little bit further than what we're going to be doing in here. Sprite, player, bullet. Edit sprite, new sprite. This is going to be pretty small. I'm going to make it 8 by 8. Edit this, and I'll zoom in. I'll get a circle, and I'll make a red outline starting up the top here. And I'll fill it with yellow. Ooh, bright yellow. And tick. There's my bullet. Tick. And I'm going to change this to the center. And I'm probably going to change all of these to the center as well. At least the enemies. I'll change them all to the center actually. Cool. Alright, so they have all been changed to the center, which means stuff in here is probably gone a bit crazy, so I'll just have to move those back in. I'm not too worried if they're off the screen. I'll just put him in the center and bring that into the center and that into the center. Okay, so that should be good now. Alright. Now, let's do some very, very simple scripting. We'll get our player moving to start with. So, what you've done before is you've gone add event, keyboard, left, and then you tell it if the left position is free, move left. We're actually going to do it a little bit different. We're just going to do it all in the step event. So we add an event, the step event, and then I'm going to create a script over here called player movement. You can just create scripts in here, but then you don't know what they're called. They're a bit harder to access, and these scripts are easily reusable as well. So I'm going to use this over here, call it player movement. And here's where the scripting starts. I'm going to try and zoom in actually a little bit. I'm not sure if I can. Let's see. I'll just see if there's some settings. Edit. And now what you will notice is that I'm not a pro at this. Okay, I'm learning a lot of it as I go and kind of figuring out what's going on. My washing machine seems to be having mental out the back there. Let's see, scripts and code. Ooh, normal text. That's colors. Oh, font down the bottom here. Size, here we go. Size 18 is probably going to be pretty good. All right. So let's go back into here. There we go. Now you'll be able to see what I'm typing. Hopefully it's readable. I haven't checked the video for this yet, obviously. But we're going to start off if, because what we want to do, and this is a pretty standard construct, if a key is pushed. Okay, so if a key is pushed, then we're going to do something. And the way we type this is we use functions that are built into GameMaker. So one of those functions is called keyboard check. Okay, it'll actually start filling things out. So if you have an idea of what you think you want to do, you can start typing a few letters and hopefully it'll come up. So in this case, this is what I want to do. I want to check a key. I don't want to check whether it's pressed or released because that's just a one-off thing. I want to check if it's actually being pushed continually, which is this top one here. I don't need to double click it. Now the way this works, keyboard check is called a function, and a function always takes a number of arguments. In this case, the arguments that we're going to give it is what key do we want to check. So to do that, what I can do is I can either type in something called VK key, VK, which is up, VK, which stands for variable key, and then I can type in what key. So up is the up arrow. Now to check letters, that's a little bit different, so I'll figure that out in a second. But if keyboard check up, then I start with these little squiggly braces, and I hit enter and tab in. If keyboard check up, then y equals y minus 5. Now, I don't need to do end line symbols if you are familiar with programming languages that use that, but you can if you want to. And then I close those squiggly brackets and backspace out. Tabbing in and out is not necessary, but it will make your code a lot more readable. And it's something that I'll be looking for when I'm assessing it to see whether you've used proper indentation on your tabs. So what this is saying here, and there's a few different ways that I could write that, but if keyboard check VK up, this is saying if the keyboard, we're checking the keyboard, if variable key up is being pushed, then do the stuff inside these brackets, okay? And in this case, y equals y minus 5. How do we know what y is? Y is kind of built in. You'll see it goes red, which means it's a something that GameMaker understands. And y equals y minus 5. So whatever the current value of y is, if y is 40, if I'm holding that up key, it's then going to go to 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, etc. Okay? It's pretty much the same as clicking that relative button. So y equals -5 relative. I think it's easier to do it this way. There is another way to type this. Minus equals 5. Okay, so minus equals 5 will reduce y by 5. If you just do this, y equals -5, it's not going to subtract -5 from y. It's going to say the new value of y is -5. And it's going to make your, I'll just do it actually. So I'll just show you what happens. I go to main 1. No, I don't. I go to control and I run a script. And the script is going to be player movement, applies to self. And then I can run the game. It'll take a second for it to compile. And then I push up. Oh, okay, there we go. It's now at -5. Doesn't matter what I push. It doesn't go up anymore. It doesn't go down. The other keys I haven't programmed, so it's just sitting at y equals -5. If I go back into here and edit this script, minus equals 5. So whatever the value of y is, it's going to be reduced. And I have to compile this program again. It's doing that down the bottom. And now I can move up the screen. Okay, so each time I'm holding that down, as I'm holding it down and it runs it, 30 frames a second, every frame, it's reducing it by 5 and I'm moving up the screen. So let's add a few more bits in there. And you can probably figure out what I'm going to do. If keyboard check VK down. Do type this out. Don't just copy and paste your previous one because you might pick up on mistakes or not pick up on mistakes if you're not typing it out. Now this time I want it to go down. So down is actually positive. That's one of the hard things about GameMaker. If you can understand that, if I just go into this test room quickly, you'll see where my cursor is up in the top left corner. Down the bottom here it shows coordinates. So 0, 0. Normally you go, okay, I've got a grid and that center point, the origin is 0, 0. And then to the right on the X is positive and up on the Y is positive. It's not like that in any graphic computer program. Mainly because old computer monitors, they always start in the top left corner, fill stuff out and go down the screen. So it's kind of been pretty much a standard. When you're working with computer monitors, computer resolution, 0, 0 is the top left because that's where it starts drawing from. Same with TVs. So you can see up here, Down in the bottom where those coordinates were, it says 0, 0, that's the top left. As we go across, 32, that's because I've got the snap on, 32, 64, etc., all the way up to 640, and we'll go down to 480 down there. Okay, so we work, positive is still right, but the Y values are reversed. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So go back to here, and that's why down is going to be like that. If keyboard check VK left, X minus equals 5, and then if keyboard check VK right, X plus equals 5. Okay, so I should have some movement now. And every time I change the code, I've got to recompile it so it knows what to do. So I can now move my player character around. He is moving pretty fast. Okay, so he is moving pretty fast. And what we're going to do is we're going to modify our script a little bit. This script could actually be thought of as a function. Got an achievement for running a program 10 times. Nice. This script could actually be thought of as a function called player movement. You'll notice over here, sorry, when I double click this, I get the option to add in arguments. And that means I can actually send values to this script that the script can use. So let's actually do that and make it a little bit easier to change our speed. Currently, if I want to change this speed, I've got to do this, 4 or 3 or whatever. Okay. Instead, what we're going to do is at the top, we have to call it, we can't call it speed because that's a built-in value. So we are going to call it SPD. Okay, so that's speed. Or we could call it movement speed actually, movement underscore speed. That's more meaningful. Equals argument 0. Okay, so movement speed equals argument 0. What this means is if we go down here and type in movement speed in place of all these 5s, make sure it's spelt correctly because that's the main thing that will give you errors, not spelling stuff correctly. So what happens with this script is as soon as it runs, the first line it encounters is it says movement speed. It's a new variable. We don't actually need to type VAR or anything like that. I think you can, so I'll do it. So new variable movement speed equals argument 0. What is argument 0? Well, we're going to tell it what argument 0 is. So in here, I'm going to say the new speed is 3. Okay, so argument 0, 3. I hit play, and it should move a lot slower now. It does. But I can quickly change this speed by, if I turn this up to 30 and run it. Now I'm moving really, really fast all over the screen, which is not what I want. Okay, so the reason it does that is because we've got a variable called movement speed that's being assigned the value that gets sent through, 3, 30, whatever goes through. And then whenever it encounters it down here, instead of actually saying movement speed, it's subbing in that value that it is. So if the value is 3, it's saying y minus equals 3, y plus equals 3. So in this case, to change the speed, we only need to change one value, which is this one in here. And I'm going to set it at 4, which seems pretty good. Okay, so that's player movement. We're going to make a new script here called player shoot, I guess. And let's, for a new script, I'll right click, create script, player shoot. Okay, so this one here, we're going to have an if statement, if, and I think that there might be mouse, yep, mouse, check, and I'm going to make it a button press in this case. No, I'm just going to make it a button and we'll put in a timer later. if mouse check button, which button? We might have to have a look. Left. Probably mouse 1 might be. I'll have to have a look at that. So in order to find something out, I'm going to click on the help menu, which is nowhere to be seen here. It's actually up here. And I go to index and type in what I'm looking for, mouse check button. Which mouse button constant to check for? So it should scroll down. Here we go. So it gives me examples. Okay, if mouse check button, MB underscore left. Okay, so I'm guessing MB underscore left, right, and probably middle. So I'll type that in there. MB underscore, you can see there what ones I can choose from. So left. Then what I'm going to do is create an instance of the bullet. And I don't actually have an object, so I'll have to make that in a sec, but I think it's called create. It might be instance create. I'm pretty sure I can create it moving. Instance create obj underscore player bullet. It is going to give me an error because I haven't actually told it what to create yet. And then I put the X and the Y in. That's the X and Y of the player character. I'm pretty sure that's how instance create works. Let's just check that again. Instance underscore create. No, X and Y come first. Okay, so these are the arguments that it accepts, and X and Y come first. So X, Y, object, player, bullet. Okay, now if I try to run the code now, it's going to give me an error. So I need to actually go and create another object, obj, player, bullet. It's going to use the bullet sprite, and that's it for now. So in here, if I go and add in another event, so control, player shoot, I don't need any arguments for this one. I'll just check that that's gone orange in there. Yep, sorry, that's gone red. It recognizes that that is an actual object now. And I hit play. What's going to happen is I'll be able to create those bullets. They're not going to do anything. They're just going to sit there as long as my mouse is held down. Okay, and it's also a bit glitchy in that while my mouse is held down, it just creates a constant stream of them. So I can kind of draw a picture at the moment. All right, so we want to get that bullet moving, and we want to get the bullet moving towards the mouse. So let's start by, we'll have to have a look at how this might work. So add event, create event. Okay, so create event, and I'm going to create a script over here called bullet movement. Even though you can create scripts here, execute a piece of code, it's not a good idea to, because it's not reusable, and you also can't access it very easily. You might forget where it is. If we put them over here, we can see what all of these things are, and then it'll tell us, for example, if there's an error, it'll say there's an error in script bullet movement at this line, and we can easily go there. Otherwise, you get an obtuse error that says error in script on object player bullet at line 5, and if you've got 10 scripts in there, then it's really hard to figure out which one is which. So by putting them in separate scripts over here, these serve as little functions which we can call on different things. So this is going to be bullet movement, and we could use it for different kinds of bullets as well. If we were to upgrade bullets later on, if they have a similar action to this one, we could just put that same script on it, reuse the code. Okay, so on the create event, we're going to execute a script, the bullet movement script. We might assign a speed to it later on, so we can add to this, change it, whatever we want. So let's go into bullet movement. Okay, so this is only going to get run once, one time. So what we want to do is we want to point this in the direction of the mouse. Okay, wherever the mouse is when this is created, that's going to be the direction it points in. So there is a function that does that, but we'll have to search for it. Point in direction of mouse. No. Point. Let's just go to index. Point direction. Okay, display. So looking at this here. Okay, so there's a mathematical concept here called vectors, where you can determine the direction of a vector, and a vector is a line in space. You can determine the direction of a vector by giving it two coordinates. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it the bullet coordinates, which are going to be this object here, and then we're going to give it the mouse coordinates, which is going to be this object over here in this case. Okay, so x1, y1, if we look at this, point direction, x1, y1. So we can start by doing this here, point direction, with our other point, no, point direction, xy. The reason I'm not actually typing x1, y1 is because these are just they're kind of indicators of what the argument should be. Okay, so you don't ever want to just type these in down the bottom most of the time. And the x1, y1 is the x and y position of the bullet. Now the second one is mouse x and mouse y. I actually think it's mouse.x. No, we'll have to figure out what it is in a sec. Where's the help menu gone? There it is. And don't worry about that too much. I'll search for mouse x, mouse underscore. Okay, that's what it is. Mouse underscore x, mouse underscore y. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to find the angle, but we need to actually say direction equals point direction. So point direction is a function. It's going to give us an angle back, and direction is going to do that. And then I can just set the speed. Speed equals 10. Okay, so hopefully this will work. Like I said, I'm just guessing. There's probably a million different ways to do this. Okay, so that is working now. I can shoot bullets in the direction of my mouse. Okay, so that is a pretty simple script. It seems to be working. Done. Okay. Now what we want to do now is add a timer on this. So the bullet movement works fine. That's not a problem. So let's do player shoot. And we'll go into here. Whoops. Player shoot. Into here. Okay. And now there's a few different ways to add a timer. What I'm going to do is, it's not really, in this case it might be a bit difficult because we're in that step event. So we're going to actually add a timer that counts to 60, so that every 2 seconds, because if there's 30 frames in a second, then 60 seconds is going to get us 2 seconds. We can make it 1 second. We'll be able to change that. But this is going to be a little bit of complex coding here. There's a bit of a problem-solving thing that's going to go on. So you'll have to bear with me, but hopefully I'll take you through the whole process and you'll see, learn a few things and see how this could be done. Okay, and these kind of skills are transferable. So if you can understand how this works, you can apply it to different things. Ignore that. Okay, so I'm going to need a variable. Okay, so at the start, when I execute this script, I'm actually going to do one thing here. No, I'm just trying to think of the best way to do it. Let's have a look at the help and see if there's any timers. I don't want to use that because I'd rather use the code. I don't want to use a timeline. So there might be a way in here, time. No, we don't want to use timelines. Clock maybe. Nope. Okay, so if mouse button. I'll just quickly do a Google search and see clock functions in GameMaker. I don't want to use time function in GameMaker. Date and time. That's what I want to do. Okay, here we go. This is what I want to get. Current seconds. Okay, so all good. Now I can work with this. So if I've got current seconds, if mouse button, check button MB left, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new variable. Var timer equals current. So I'll do that later on. This might not work, in which case I'll figure out a different way to do it. Current timer equals current second. Okay. So what I'm essentially wanting to do is get the current seconds, and has 2 seconds passed. And if it has, then I can shoot again. I'm just trying to think about the best way to do this. So I might actually pause the video rather than let you watch me and ah for the next 40 minutes. So I'll pause the video and unpause it once I've figured out a good way to do this. Alright, I have figured it out. So if you remember in the drag and drop version of GameMaker, we had alarms. And we're going to use those here. Now I could have done this just with a normal variable, but this is what the script that we've got so far looks like. What we're going to do is we're going to check to see whether an alarm has gone below 0. Now, alarms don't automatically go down in code, so we have to make it go down. First of all, though, we're going to make it do a double check. So if mouse button left, and there's 2 ways to type this. You can actually type in A and D, or I think you can type in 2 and symbols. That doesn't look right. A and D. So, and alarm 0, doesn't matter what number we use in there, we just have to be consistent. Alarm 0 is less than or equal to 0. Okay. So this is the check now. So we've actually got a double conditional here. We're checking to see if that's true and that is true. So both of these things must be true for it to create a bullet. When one of those is true, what we're going to do is set alarm 0 equals 5. Okay, I actually realized that 1 bullet every 2 seconds is a very long time when I was testing this. And now what we can do is we can test this. Now there is going to be an error. And this is not so much it's not a syntax error or a runtime error, it's a logic error. Okay, you see I can only shoot 1 bullet. Also, just up here, I've got something running that gives me my frames per second. So that's 30 frames per second, pretty constant. I could change that up if I wanted to. So back into this player shoot script. The reason it's not letting me do another one is because this number is never reducing. It does it once. So when it looks at the start, alarm 0 they're all by default set to 0. So it's less than or equal to 0, so that's true. And I'm pushing the left mouse button, so that's true. So I can get rid of that. So then it says alarm 0 is now equal to 5. Create a bullet. Doesn't matter what order I do these in. And then it goes back to the top. If mouse button left. So if I'm clicking the mouse button, that'll be true. And alarm 0 is less than or equal to 0. Well, it's now at 5 after running it once. So that's not true. So it won't do this again because both of those things have to be true. So what I do is up here, right at the start, minus equals 5. Not minus equals 5, minus equals 1. So every frame, because this is in the step event, every step it's executing the script, is going to do this, then it will check the mouse button. Okay, so I can run it, and I should be able to fire some bullets now. Okay, so that's a bit better, more than the one that was there before. It's firing them in the direction of the mouse. Okay, so that's all good. Next thing is to have the enemy spawner and enemy character spawning and moving towards the player character. So let's do this one first. So enemy character, I'll create a script and I'll call it enemy AI, and it's going to do this every step, but I think we can have move towards. This is going to be pretty simple. Move towards, I don't want move towards point. And I need to give it 3 values, an X position, a Y position, and a speed. Now to get the X position of the player, I can do this. So obj underscore player underscore character dot X. Okay, that's going to give me the X position of the player character. Then a comma. You can probably figure out how I do the second one for the Y. Character dot Y. If there's more than one player character on the screen, say if you had a 2-player one, it would go, I think it would go towards the closest, or it might just go towards the first one that was created. I'm not sure. And the speed, in this case, we'll go, we'll start off with 4, and we'll probably change that. The player moves at 4, so maybe they can move at 5, a bit faster. He can't outrun them. Okay. So open up my, here, add event, step event, and we go to, what am I doing? Enemy AI. Oops, control, execute a script, enemy AI, click OK. And now I'm going to make one more script, create script, spawner AI. And for this one, I'm going to go if alarm 1. I'm not sure if we can use the same alarm 0 as the other one, so we'll just change it to alarm 1 for now. If alarm 1 is less than or equal to 0, instance create XY, so XY position of the spawner. Excuse me. And we're going to create an object enemy character. Then we're going to set alarm 1 equals, and I want to make it a random number. So random range. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Random underscore range between I guess 10, maybe 30 to 90. Okay, so between 1 and 3 seconds. Over time we could reduce this, and then at the top I need alarm 1 minus equals 1. So you see how that bit of code there So to differentiate between when I can shoot bullets and now how often it's going to spawn enemies, it's pretty much interchangeable. It's almost exactly the same. So I go into the enemy spawner, add event, step event, and then control, add a script, spawner AI, and click OK. Now we'll test this. Have a feeling that there might be some errors because I made everything solid earlier. Okay, so those enemies move towards him pretty quickly, and I can't shoot them nearly fast enough. Okay, they're coming out all the time. Okay, so essentially what we want to do is in the next video, oh wait, I can outrun them. Oh, if I go at an angle, I can outrun them. Okay. I don't know why that is, but in the next video, we're going to look at making collisions between the enemies and the bullets, making them die, and being able to blow up these spawners, so that eventually once you complete and destroy all the spawners, it moves to the next level. And that is all for this video. So you should have an unwinnable game, but you should be able to move around, you should be able to shoot, the enemy should move towards you, and that's it. There's other things that we want to fix up, such as not being able to leave the room, not being able to walk through walls or enemies, essentially, and make it so that when the enemies touch us, we die. So we'll fix all of those things up in the next video. Hopefully you were saving that along the way, but I just saved it then. So please do that, save it, and continue on in the next video.